Delanco Township Committee Meeting of February 5th, 2024, beginning at 7 p.m. at the Delanco Township Municipal Building, 770 Coopertown Road, Delanco, New Jersey. Go do a test. Test. Wait, hold on. No, I am on. Go ahead. Test. All right. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay. This is a test. Test. 1, 2, 3. Test.
And are we recording?
We are recording, Mayor.
All right, very good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 5th, 2024 Township Committee Meeting held at the Municipal Building at 7 o'clock or so p.m., 770 Coopertown Road here in Delanco. Can we have a roll call, please, Janice?
Mrs. Patrick. Here. Mr. Ouellette.
Here.
Ms. Seuss. Here. Mr. Templeton.
Here.
Mr. Bartlett.
Here. Also present, Mr. Schwab, our Township Administrator, Mr. Fox, our Township Engineer, Mr. Heinhold, our Township Solicitor, Mrs. Lohr, our Municipal Clerk, Mrs. Russell, our Deputy Municipal Clerk, Mr. Fenimore, Superintendent of Public Works, Chief Tilger, the Police Chief, and his entourage, and we have Scott Taylor here, our planner. Could everyone please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Janice, could I have the sunshine statement, please?
Please be advised that proper notice of this meeting has been given in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act in the following manner. Written notice has been mailed to the Burlington County Times and Courier Post and published in the January 4th, 2024 editions. Written notice has been posted on the official bulletin board of the Township of Delanco at least 48 hours prior to the meeting.
Thank you, Janice. Before we begin, can I just ask for a moment of silence for Mr. Paul Dragos? He was a resident of town. He was involved with Dobbins Church. He was involved with our fire company. He had passed away about a week and a half ago. So just have a moment of silence. Thank you. All right. First up on the agenda, the first annual Lawrence C. Stearns Officer of the Year Award. Chief.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and it's a very special evening for the police department and several people involved with it. I want to welcome everybody here. Tonight I'm honored to be presenting the inaugural Lawrence C. Stearns Officer of the Year. This is going back about 2 years. I had the idea that I wanted to honor the memory of Lieutenant Stearns and also come up with an Officer of the Year. We never here at the Police Department have ever given an award for Officer of the Year. So it was fitting that both be on at the same time. We honor Lieutenant Stearns as well as the officer for his dedicated service. Excuse me, for 2023. The award was named in recognition and memory of Lieutenant Lawrence C. Stearns. Lieutenant Stearns was a United States Marine who served our country and was injured in combat in Vietnam. However, after his service to the military, he chose to continue to serve, this time in the capacity of a law enforcement officer here in Delanco. He began his career in 1974, and he served the community for 30 years before he retired in 2005. During his career, he was committed to the residents of this community, he also served with, and he's dedicated to the law enforcement profession. Besides being an officer here, he's a past president of the Burlington County Federal Board of Police Watch 2. Anybody involved with that knows how much work he did for that organization. Lieutenant Stearns, when I got on, this is a personal story where in 2005 I transferred here to Beverly. As I got here, there was a bunch of constraints that was impossible to allow. Lieutenant Stearns known that would have been me, he opted to retire. So he holds a real special place in my heart. I'm happy to have his family here, also his daughters, son-in-law, grandchildren. Great to see. It doesn't happen enough, but when it does, it's really good. This year's recipient, he began his law enforcement career with Delaware Reporting Authority, where he served for approximately 3 years. In 2021, this officer joined our agency, and since then has tirelessly dedicated himself to this agency and his fellow employees. In 2023, the command staff and supervisors all communicated about who we would be putting in the effective bureau with the board that we had there. It was pretty easy to see. This officer, he was selected to take that role on, and due to staffing issues, shortly thereafter being selected, he was told he could have to handle double duty, being that handling all investigations as well as working the patrol shift and patrol officer capacity. Not once did he complain. He took on the responsibilities and he excelled. You know, there's people who are fit to do a job, and this officer, he excelled at everything because of the hard work that he put into it. When it comes to investigations, not every officer is fit for that. This one is. And since he's been here, it's been rewarding to see him grow. This past year, it's also been instrumental in combating gun violence, narcotics distribution, property crime, as well as building bonds with community members and community projects here in Delanco. This officer spearheaded building multiple community-based relationships, and due to his efforts in Delanco Township, we now host the work in conjunction with the Department and Delanco County that hosts the Hope on Little Access School, which offers critical support for persons and the families struggling with addiction and related issues. At this time, we ask Lieutenant Stearns Blake to step forward to help me present the officer decision. For the aforementioned reasons, I would like to now congratulate Detective Adam Lippick for being selected as the first ever Delanco Stearns Officer of the Year. February 5th, 2024, I'm honored to present you with this certificate as the Lieutenant Lawrence C. Stearns 2023 Officer of the Year. In recognition of your outstanding, never-ending service to the Delanco Township Police Department, we thank you. Year, which, like I said, this is something that I'm proud to be able to present. And a little history on this: the decision-making process wasn't me alone. It involved the command staff, the supervisors, and it tells you something when there was a unanimous decision. He was selected by everyone. So, directly. For those who are here just for the ceremony, you are able to leave before the township meeting begins.
Before you leave, we do have a proclamation from the Township Committee as well.
Yeah. Adam, introduce your new officers while they're here too. Introduce the members of the department.
Yeah, when Matt's done,
Once it's done. Yes.
So this is a proclamation honoring Detective Adam Lippick, recipient of the Lawrence C. Stearns Officer of the Year Award. Whereas it is the desire of the township of Delanco to recognize Detective Ann Lippick for his dedication and commitment to the Delanco Township Police Department, the residents of the Delanco community, and his profession as the recipient of the Lawrence C. Stearns Officer of the Year Award. And whereas Detective Lippick was hired in December 2021 and currently serves as Delanco Township Detective. And whereas Detective Lippick demonstrates a positive work ethic coupled with an encouraging attitude as a police officer. And whereas Detective Lippick's competence, together with his character and willingness to adapt to change, demonstrates his ability to grow and thrive in our police department. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Township Committee of the Township of Delanco that Adam Lippick is hereby commended for his accomplishment as the recipient of the Lawrence C. Stearns Officer of the Year Award. In which whereof the mayor, deputy mayor, and community persons have caused these presents to be executed and sealed the Delanco Township this 5th day of February 2024.
And his family also introduced.
Even though Adam was presented tonight for the outstanding job he did, every one of them deserves some acknowledgement. So starting left to right, I'm going to do Sergeant Eric Hoffman.
We're going to shake everyone's hands and we're around. We're very lucky in Delanco to have such a great police force. She runs the show here. Thank you. We appreciate your service. We appreciate you keeping us safe.
Adam, do you want to introduce Adam's family?
I see we had a couple other officers that were once here in Delanco. I see George Sakalis and
Jesse DeSanto's back there.
Jesse, and I didn't see Jesse. Where's Jesse?
He's right behind us.
And Eric Rogers. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you.
And the detective's family's here as well.
Yes. Thank you for attending. It's been a pleasure being on board, and I hope to meet you guys very soon. Ellie's wife, over there, David Rashad. Thank you for being in attendance.
She agrees. Before you go, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
You can go if you want. Or you can stay.
You're more than welcome to stay if you really would like to.
Do you want me to take the picture?
I go right.
Are you good?
We'll just give it a couple minutes while they exit.
Danielle's one of girls.
Yes, she is. She was good though.
Yeah, she was good. This was so nice that all of them came.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen them all here.
Should you go as the mayor? Get a picture with them? No, the
Phil
whole group,
took-
they're all taking pictures.
Phil took a picture. Phil always takes pictures.
You know, I meant with the.
Oh,
mayor.
yeah. There it goes.
I don't know if Scott's presentation is going to be as interesting. I don't know if your presentation's going to be as interesting. How do you follow that up?
We'll give you a standing ovation.
Right.
That's okay.
Just let them get out.
It's
then
a
we'll
really nice
continue with
park.
It's not your legacy. It's your legacy, Scott.
Mr. McFadden, could you close that door back there? I don't know, can he legally do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Laura says you can, so
So glad we brought him on board.
let it be said. As long as it's unlocked, I think
That's
we're
right,
good.
as long as it's unlocked.
All
Well,
right.
I mean, that's okay, right, Doc?
Yeah, and after a few minutes, we can open it back up.
Right.
All right.
Not that Scott needs any quiet.
All right. I don't know how we top that, but Mr. Taylor is sure going to try with his presentation on the fiscal year 2024 Local Recreation Improvement Grant. The floor is yours, Scott.
Thank you. And I think we're going to talk about two things, just in talking to Phil and some emails from Rich. One of the things that we'll do is we'll give a brief overview of the Vine Street Park / Centennial Park, potentially, that we had prepared a concept for and discussed with Rec a few weeks ago.
Hey, Scott, let me just interrupt you. Why don't you grab the portable mic? Hold it right off the stand.
Scott, could I ask you to move the easel over this way? Being we're broadcasting and we have a whole bunch of folks that may be out there watching.
Plus and the people in the audience here as well.
I don't know, will the camera pick that up? Or?
That's okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it'll pick it up.
Okay,
That's fine.
Yeah, that's good. Probably still not on video.
thank you.
Okay.
There you go.
So we'll do two things. One, I'll go through a little bit of the park concept that we had created a few weeks ago. And then we'll talk for a few minutes about there is a local recreation improvement grant that is due February 27th. So between now and your next meeting, which I believe is the 26th, the decision of what to be done for that will need to be discussed with Rec. I know that one of the options that's being looked at is some playground equipment at FOD adjacent, which has been part of the master plan, actually dating back to 2004, which is when the very first concept plan was done for that,
Right.
which I know Kate was
Yeah.
actually here for that. Seems like just 19 years ago.
Yeah.
So just by way of reference, on the plan here, Burlington Ave is on the left-hand side, Vine Street is to the bottom of the plan. We know that the building that had been demolished by the county had been acquired, that has since been conveyed to the township. There is a small road widening and slight triangle easement to make sure that nothing large gets put back in that spot, which was, I believe, the reason for the county purchasing in the first place. So we did have some meetings and site visits with Steve Ward and Perlmutter, some discussions with the folks at Rec to come up with a little bit of a concept plan for the property here. This really is sort of a unique thing that we were trying to do several things with this property. One is, let's try to create sort of a strong sense of place. This is the other anchor of through the downtown. You know, we have Gateway Park coming in, we have this at the intersection, and then it's a very vehicular dominated place. So the other thing we wanted to do was to try to slow people down from traffic calming and make it a safer, nicer place for pedestrians. So a couple of things that we looked at doing was coming in with a small sitting area that is set back, that sort of creates some definition, and having some open lawn that sort of faces toward Vine Street. That does a couple of things. We were very judicious in trying to leave some of that open. It's a very compact section of town. This provides an opportunity if somebody wants to throw a frisbee, throw a football, run out and blanket, do a picnic or anything, that can happen here. We know that for decades we've talked about continuing efforts to try to stimulate economic growth and reinvestment in the downtown. We know that we've got an ice cream store across the street here. Having some space that can serve as an anchor within the downtown for a food truck night or other small events to try and bolster that viability can work well, so that this isn't just a park, it becomes this multifaceted, multi-generational spot. We're showing some picnic tables in the lawn area, and we're also showing a plaza space that has potential for a pavilion over it. And then in terms of the streetscape, a lot of that was done, and it was, as all of you know, a lot of that was done as an Eagle Scout project by Steve Moore. A lot of that material was donated, it was done a long time ago. Some of that material is actually invasive, donated by some garden centers and other people. So we want to try to replant some of those things that we can that are going to provide some function, but also use some simpler palette materials that's easier to maintain, so it doesn't get away from the town. Coming along the streetscape, we were looking at doing some low fencing. It's about 24, maybe 30 inches high, as long as that's consistent with the site triangle easement. Those easements usually back up to 24 or 30 inches. That creates a little bit of visual separation and functional separation, that if a car were to swerve or something, it creates a little bit of safety. That actually comes and wraps around this entry walk that leads into the plaza and pavilion space. Along here, one of the items that was raised was the potential for an historic downtown club. So we're showing that along the central axis here, which actually lines up with the existing Sycamore. That is in good shape, and we intend to retain that. Sorry, John, I know it's big and I know it throws a lot of pieces.
Just bring your rake.
That'll be the last sycamore tree in the land.
Just bring your rake.
I will. So playing off of that geometry, going with the clock out front, and then also a dedication plaque and potentially a time capsule behind that. That was knowing that this is Centennial Park, and before the words could leave my mouth, Committeewoman Seuss at the rec meeting was like, what about calling it Centennial Park? Yeah. And so I can't actually take formal credit for that. I think that name would be good. It really creates something sort of special about that. So being able to do some kind of time capsule for the Centennial would be an interesting element. Litter receptacles, bike racks, interpretive signs that talk about the history of the site, and even some of the pollinator habitat can be done through this area. We do have brick sidewalks along Burlington Avenue. One of the other ideas is to really punctuate and define the space itself. Would be to extend the brick sidewalk the frontage of the park property. That really sort of defines this area. Supplementing some of those plantings, doing some underplantings around the sycamore, things that will mass, things like bayberry, mountain laurel, and rhododendron that can be planted far enough apart, let them grow together as a mass, provide some habitat, but mainly it doesn't have to be mulched and weeded and pruned. We really try to create this as sort of a shady woodland garden. We'll also provide a nice buffer for the adjacent residents, but also for the folks who are actually in the park itself. Showing an extension of decorative streetlights down Vine Street again to sort of create this as a whole identifiable unit, create a unique sense of place. Bike racks, metal fence, showing picnic tables in a couple locations, and also kind of one nestled back or accessible picnic tables in that plaza space. As I said, if the downtown continues to grow, this is the spot where you could have food trucks once in the summer, or twice in the summer, where you could have a small quartet or an inflatable movie screen and be able to do sort of small group things here to bring some folks back into the downtown. Because because this is, has an opportunity to be a nice little local space and sort of another core element and anchor to the downtown. All right, I think that is sort of the overview for this park concept. The other, as I mentioned, is Rec is working on some evaluating some playground equipment that can go out of FOD. The L grade, as it's affectionately called, is due February 27th. It does have a maximum grant amount of $100,000, so that does not lend itself to larger scale projects. It's really intended more for like a playground project and other rehabilitation, smaller projects as opposed to park development. So I would suspect that playground may make it easier and candidate fits better. However, we would have the opportunity to phase part of this project. That's the direction that the town wanted to go. But I think either would be good candidates for that grant.
Scott, do you have a cost estimate on this particular park?
So, funny you should mention that. Very, very preliminarily. I just sent it a few minutes after 5 o'clock today. Preliminary estimates are just around $249,000 plus some contingency costs.
Okay.
And this is again this is me selecting some benches and litter receptacles and trash cans. These numbers could get lower, these numbers could get higher, but it's a pretty comfortable range of being able to do a high quality park that has good durability, good safety. We don't like to go a little bit cheaper, but then we're replacing things in 5, 6, 7 years. Better to spend twice as much for something that will last 4 times as long.
Right.
And that's kind of our experience, that there is a sweet spot. You don't want to go crazy with some of those elements, but a little bit of money judiciously spent, because we do have to build everything at prevailing wage rate, which adds a considerable cost to everything we do. So a slightly higher material cost doesn't actually translate to the overall cost of those features.
So the other question I have is, can this grant be submitted as an alternative, like either this or that? You know how we have done like alternate 1, 2, 3? Can it be done, or do we have to just pick like the playground or this? Because if this is only $100,000, it doesn't look like we would get the whole project, but we would get enough to get a good start on it.
So I think part of the issue is commingling that. If you guys had $150,000 sitting in a pot, burning a hole in your budgetary pockets,
Right.
It may make some sense to do this.
Okay.
To try to put a $100,000 project out to bid to build a portion of this, and then the following year do the same thing. The design and contract administration costs.
Doesn't work.
It probably doesn't make sense. So I think it would make more sense to do a stronger application for the playground at that amount. And then we're not sort of bidding against ourselves in the eyes of the folks in the state.
Okay, good. Understood, thank you.
That is it's a beautiful design, Scott, that's for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree that it wouldn't make sense to do part, then bid it out again, do another part. And I'd like to see us just, finish one project, like the Field of Dreams, get the playground equipment in. It's, part of the master plan that's been there for 19, 20 years, like you were saying. And plus, you see the kids out there at the soccer games. They might be watching their siblings play or waiting for their siblings to be finished playing. They're always, running around, climbing on the soccer goals and things like that. It would be nice if they had something there to use, to play on while their siblings are playing soccer. That could be used throughout the whole season, from April all the way to October, November. So I think I would rather see the playground equipment there. But I think that's a beautiful design, though, absolutely.
Yeah, it is. It certainly, there may be another grant coming up that this would fit. Or if the county starts doing the municipal grants again at $250, this would be ideal. Yeah.
Vern or Mike, do you guys have any?
With the 100,000, that would cover all the playground equipment?
So that depends on how much and how large that structure wants to be. And Phil and I are planning to coordinate some of those decisions. That playground equipment, because the safety is such a critical element, that playground equipment is very, very expensive. A playground that is the size of this room with rubber surfacing can cost about $250,000 if you fill it. Now, this playground is really more of a support facility for siblings and others. So it's not, you know, it will be a little bit of a destination, but we will say that in grant applications, because it will be for some. So I think going smaller with that. Some of those design decisions are we going to use a wood fiber safety surfacing, which has a much lower initial cost. The rubber clay surfacing, which is very predictable, is about $20 a square foot, which is about the price of the marble tile. It almost doubles the price of the playground. It's as much as the playground that's above it. So those are some of those decisions that we can sort of work through and make some of those decisions. And it may even be that that play area gets designed in such a way that maybe a small phase one goes in now. It could have a small extension at some point in the future, but there's ways to do that. We will have to provide accessibility in accordance with the New Jersey Charter subcode. So there will have to be sidewalks and connections from the parking lot, from those walkways into that new playground.
So probably similar in size to the West Avenue playground, maybe.
Yeah, I would think like that seating area. I don't think it'd be any bigger than that seating area there, if I remember that plan.
Where was it proposed? Back behind where the new pump is?
Yeah, it's back
The
there.
new well?
Yeah, back there.
Okay.
Back there,
The
yeah.
original concept actually had it on the east side. The roads, the roads were all being realigned. That was when
Yeah.
Before
the
the,
earliest concepts were for that access road to come through the county property.
Right.
To the marine, because there was some acquisition discussion years ago. So we shifted it in subsequent concepts over to that sort of east-southeast side.
and that's where a lot of the kids end up playing whatever their tag or whatever, chasing their friends while their siblings are
Yeah.
playing right now, so that's,
That's good.
Who's
Sounds like a
getting the
pretty good area.
pricing? Who's getting the pricing for the equipment?
I think rec is.
So Rec was going to do some initial selections. I told Phil, I've probably done this 200 times. Those reps are very good. If you say, we have X area and or we have X amount of dollars total, we need something to do this, you can tailor some things a little bit to customize. Colors are an easy thing, but reinventing the wheel doesn't make a lot of sense. So getting some standardized things, and those manufacturers, some are available on state contract. The one, and we can get into some of those differences, but we'll probably be working with REC because there will be excavation and construction and sidewalks and some other issues, and then some potential alternates, because one of the things we run into on some other projects, we have somebody doing the site prep and somebody else is doing the installation. The second something's off by an inch or two, there's a lot of finger pointing. So that's not always a good thing, especially from safety and safety servicing is at play.
Great. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm glad the conversation has shifted to the Field of Dreams and the playground that's been planned there. I guess the open space there was kind of to fit into the requirements of the state and the local recreation improvement grant as far as a recreation area, because the existing Vine Street Park is kind of a quiet place. You've got a walkway that's kind of in and behind some garden plantings and so forth, and so you're kind of insulated from the streets noise and traffic and so forth. And in your initial description, you did mention the traffic on Burlington Avenue coming around the bend there, but then you said it's now planned or proposed as an open area, the kids could throw a ball or a frisbee or things like that, and it just immediately had the ball frisbee bouncing out into the street. And that just seems to be cross purposes and maybe not the best thing to do.
Well, one of the things we did mention, so a couple things. I think all of our meetings and discussions of this and programming happened before the L rate was even announced.
Right.
So this was, we have a space here. What can we do with this space to try to have it serve as many purposes as possible? Have it be multi-generational. Do I foresee kids playing a lot of games out here? No. But there is a lawn area here. Right now, a lot of kids play in the street. If there's an opportunity that some toddlers are playing in the lawn and we do have fencing and some plantings here to sort of stop that movement, that was what we did in response. Any bigger kids are going to go to a walk, they're going to go to one of the schools, they're going to go to F&B, they're going to do something else. So it's really intended toward an extra sort of open play, smaller, to avoid those safety situations.
I think we had even talked about possibly putting a fence on the Vine Street side too, partially.
And we did. We actually turned the corner and wrapped it down this first 15 feet. We left this open, kind of as flexibility, but that's something that fencing could extend further down if everyone thought there was a need for that. We kind of like the idea of, maybe twice a summer, maybe there is a food truck night, maybe there's an opportunity that does something here that brings folks into the downtown and the road can be closed off and this becomes a little bit of space or in conjunction with your parades or something else.
Well, the other thing, it's got a full south exposure, so your ice cream cone's going to go pretty quickly. You got to move it along.
Your ice cream.
Yeah.
But really, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, me either.
Don't hold it very long.
Yeah.
I like that.
but some shade would maybe be helpful
Yeah.
for the ice cream longevity.
Yeah. And we were showing some native, like some eastern redbud here, to try to do a little shade in some corners. I will say the canopy of this sycamore is probably actually a little bit larger than what's shown here. It throws some massive shade.
Last question, the clock, is it self-winding or what's the story there? Because the clock up here,
Gotta hire
outside, has never been right. I mean,
Yes, the new tech for all of the clocks have photo cells and they automatically adjust for daylight savings time, and it is much smarter than what they were. I actually was talking to the rep because I hadn't done one in probably 15 years, 20 years, and talking to him, he was like, no, it's, all the lights are LED, it's not fluorescent tubes for the light behind, and much smarter. It will not track your heartbeat.
And even if it's broke, it's still right twice a day.
a sundial, stick to a sundial.
Yeah.
Low maintenance, we're in with low maintenance here.
And, thanks for bringing up that point about the footballs and the frisbees, Mike. That was kind of my first thought when I heard that as well, putting my emergency services hat on. Like, I don't want to see a kid running into the street with a football or a frisbee,
Right.
but that was a good explanation. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see the fencing. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Taylor?
We want to talk about last year's grant and that project, just as an update on where we are.
That's the basketball court.
Basketball court in the,
I would love to, however, Steve Lennon's handling
Steve
that,
is, yeah.
Harry.
Yeah.
So I would be tap dancing more than normal. I wore the, yeah, so unfortunately I was not prepared to update you on that.
Mike, I can give you a little bit as trying to coordinate stuff. The estimate for the resurfacing significantly more than what the grant will cover. So that portion kind of froze. Harry and Steve came up with a different location for the walkway and move things around a little bit, and we have that, but until we'll be discussing in budget whether or not you want to supplement, like he was talking about having an extra 100,000, 150,000, whether you want to supplement the state grant for the surfacing because the state grant was not enough to cover it. We did the same thing with Field of Dreams well, although that case we had already planned to do the well, and we got the state grant. It's a good thing we did because that ended up costing more than what was estimated. And so we know that whatever we're talking about today, a year and a half later when you're doing things, it's not going to cost those numbers. So you have to be prepared. I would say you look at the grant as a supplement, not as 100%. We probably should have thought of that when we were talking about the, the work at the basketball court. So we'll talk about that meeting.
Yeah, since we had the brain trust in the room and
Yeah.
Mr. McFadden has brought that up.
But it was a good question because it relates to this. If you're going to make an application to the state for new money, one of the things they're going to look and see, well, did you spend the old money? We spent the first years, but we haven't spent the second years. So I'm not sure where we are in terms of in line, but there's nothing wrong with applying for something, even though your chance, we never thought we'd get the second years.
Right.
So, you put together the best application you can, you get it in there. If you don't get it, you don't commit hara-kiri. You think through the project. We now have these two projects, whether we can do them in 24, or you plan it so that you can do it in 25, if you're ready to go. Best projects is the ones you have plans on the shelf, ready to go. So you try it. I would say, you apply for one or the other, whatever you decide, and if you don't get it, we plan again in 25, either with our own money or with supplement state money.
And I will say that the craziness of construction costs have really leveled. Material costs have generally leveled. We were seeing prices that were 20–30% increases over a 1 or 2 year period. It was unlike anything we've ever seen. We have seen that level out. The surfacing cost is one of those. The number that we had plugged in and actually added money to was actually assisted based on feedback from the contractor, who then submitted a much, much higher number when we kind of do the actual work. So that insanity seems to have leveled off, partly with a leveling off of the housing market and the increase in the interest rates. We need to buy some time for seeing those level and flat.
I thought we mentioned something about doing the paving with another paving contract that we had, right?
And that is one of the costs.
That's for the walkways and so on, not for the actual.
That's a favorite.
I know, but looking at that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
For the walkways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not for the surfacing, the basketball court surfacing is
no,
special.
I thought we asked that a while ago anyway.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the primary thing that we have the grant for. So one of the possibilities, can we use the grant money to do everything except for surfacing the basketball court? We'll have to discuss that.
Yeah.
We'll have that discussion.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, we are, let's see, meeting is now open to the public for any comments or questions. This is session number 1. If you have any comments or questions, you could approach the podium, just give your name and address for the
Unless you want to
record.
listen in case they make any comments on that.
Anyone, public comments or questions? Going once, going twice. We'll have another session later on as well. All right, comments and reports. We'll start with our professionals. Mr. Fox?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I have quite a few things to go over. To bring you up to date on the crossings, the light at Sterling, the entrance at Sterling, has been energized and it's lit. They just finished that today. So there wasn't talk of putting a solar light in there. That is obviously off the table. The light is in, and it's functioning right now. I haven't looked at the lighting patterns of it yet, but this one is today, but I will check that. They also have been out there doing concrete repairs, as requested from our office. concrete is the next thing. All of it today, and then pouring all of it tomorrow. That's their schedule, so now. So once they have that concrete poured, narrowing things down, and getting close to coming up with a final week punch list and looking at acceptance from our end. Now, we still have the issue of the basins with the plans, this contract and the landscaping. So, but work is continuing on.
I saw there was some emails about, I guess when they were putting that light in, they were causing other damages or whatnot. Did you look at that at all?
I didn't see those emails. They had to bore under the roadway to get the conduit in. And then when they, or maybe that one, the corner house, that one?
Yeah, I think that you had sent that email, right? It's good now? Okay.
Yeah.
And the people were very, I think they took care of it.
All right, good. Yeah, I think that was going to the transformer on that lot.
Yeah, exactly. They took out the sidewalk and some of the
Okay.
trucks got in, and they'll be repointing that tomorrow.
All right, great.
So, yeah. The 2023 road program, we're still waiting to do budget work when the weather gets better. But the only major issue we have at this point is that, it's not really major, but there's some finding on Union and Third, wet and cat right. So they are going to address that. Gotta be punch aside when the weather is favorable.
That contractor left a lot of debris all around that work area. They were a mess.
It was a very difficult contractor. Yeah. The Zubrook seawall, as I believe everyone knows, we did get approval from DEP for that project. In my report, I have a schedule. I can go over that, but so you have it in writing and refer to it later on. It's in my report. The main issue is that no work can be done on the bulkhead itself, on the seawall itself, between March 1st and June 30th, and then not again from September 1st to November 30th. And that's because of the sturgeon spawning season. The sturgeon swim up the river in the spring, they spawn, and then the little sturgeon come out in the fall. So we're not allowed to do any grading work or any work waterward up the wall during that time period. So with that, we have a schedule. We're working to finalize the plans and specs now, the actual construction plans and specs. I'd like to meet with Richard and John, and I assume Mr. Templeton can even spearhead the project, and anyone else that wants to sit on that meeting to go over our plans so we're on the same page. Then I would make a presentation to the whole committee. And that will be the 4th, March 4th. So that would be to see what we're putting out the bid.
Want to pick a day now? You said the week of the 26th, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, the Tuesday, Richard, you're Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, right?
Yeah.
And Tuesday, we've got budget stuff in the afternoon. I've got a conflict in the morning. Possible Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, I'm free either one of those days.
Mr. Schwab?
I don't have my, I didn't bring my.
Yeah,
schedule.
I'll confirm.
We'll confirm it, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
confirm
Wednesday,
that.
Thursday.
But sometime that week, we'll get together.
Great.
And with that, we then advertise on March 7th, that's the plan. Receive bids, we're gonna give about 2 months for the contractors to bid on it, about 7 weeks. And we can receive the bids on May 1st. We can award it in that following meeting on the 6th. And construction can't start until July 1st. And they only have 2 months, they have a month of July and a month of August. So what I'd like to award the contract so early, so we get all the paperwork out of the way, the contract orders materials, he could be sitting there ready to go March 1st, start working on the actual parts construction.
Yeah, that was my main
July.
concern, if they could get the materials in time. July 1st.
July 1st.
July 1st.
July
July
1st.
1st,
March.
July 1st, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're anxious.
Did you want to award that bid?
We'd like to award on the 6th. May 6th. So with that, we should have, that gives 2 months of actual working time putting in the seawall itself. I don't see a problem with that happening. They can, after that, work behind it, doing all the finishing touches and things like that. They just can't do anything that creates any vibration or noises that could disrupt the sturgeon. At worst case, if things aren't done, they can come back in November, and then they have all winter to tweak out anything that needs to be done. So that's our schedule. We should be having, and actually I have final construction completed by September 15th, which is my birthday. So
Your present.
that's gonna be my birthday present.
How many years in the making has this been going on now?
6,161 days since first contact with DEP.
Harry, you want to talk about how you're going to meet the conditions of the historic people with the photographs?
Yes, as a condition of the approval, we have to adjust the historic nature of the property. The DEP and SHPO, the Historic Preservation Office, wants the empty lot considered historic as well as the mansion, whatever it is, labeled as historic. What that does is we have to do basically documentation of what's out there. And photographs, reports, sketches, and all that information gets archived. So in case somebody in the future wants to go research the property, see what historic significance was there, all the information is there. We do have someone in our office that's qualified, certified by the state. I did talk to them, and they're kind of overwhelmed with work at the moment, so I am going to get a price from Hunter Research to do that work. But that's contingent upon, we can't start construction until we get that work done. But we can do all the rest of it, we like the bids and all that kind of work, but we can't put shovel in the ground until that has been submitted to SHPO. Any questions on the seawall?
Happy to see it moving.
Yeah, we're getting there. The Newton's Landing and River's Edge traffic striping, we're not real happy with how Newton's Landing turned out. River's Edge striping is better quality, but it kind of got messed up on locations. So I actually went out there myself this time and marked what we want done. So there's about 500 feet of yellow line that's out there now that will be removed. And the chief suggested, and I agree, rather than painting black paint over it, we're going to hydroblast it, so the paint comes off of the road. Otherwise, the black paint starts wearing off and it starts turning yellow, and there could be issues with enforcement.
Who's paying for that?
Well, I'm talking to the contractor now. There's some of it he is responsible for, some of it we changed. I can say raw plan. I actually took another section of yellow paint that was there originally, and I'm recommending removing it. We can get another three parking spaces. So that wasn't the contractor's fault. And there was an issue with the mailboxes that were located, where they used to be yellow paint, but they reversed the mailboxes. And that was not supposed to be repainted, but there was yellow there, which we had to obliterate. So it's kind of a mixture. It was just a kind of mix up with the contractor, what was going on, what was actually happening before, and what now. So I'm dealing with the contractor to see what we can work out.
Okay.
Harry, did you get my email regarding what the county was going to do at Newton's Landing? And was that the area that you hadn't done yet? And would that help some of the entrance and exit?
No, they're not coming down into Newton's Landing, it's just on the intersection.
Right, just on,
So that
okay.
won't help us.
Okay.
With the Newton's Landing end of it, contractors are responsible for 100%. There's no question about that. That's just poor workmanship on that section. So once I get everything worked out with them, I can inform everyone with what's happening with it and move on. The lead safe inspections, just so everyone knows, because you may be getting phone calls from landlords and whatnot. As I believe you all know, that the state passed a law that any rental properties have to be inspected for lead-based paint. And as part of that law, it required municipalities to provide that service if the landlord didn't want to do it themselves. So the landlord has the opportunity to hire their own people to do it, but we have to offer the service to landlords in case they say, I want you to do it.
Is it all rental properties or built before 78?
78.
Correct. Anything after or before 78, correct. Thank you. And there's some other exemptions on larger units if they're already state certified, they don't have to do it. If it's a bed and breakfast type thing that they only rent out for less than 6 months at a time, they're exempt. There's certain exemptions there, but generally it's and we did working with the office with Janice, Bev, and Jess. We sent out a notice, and I believe it went out today, to the landlords, explaining to them the process and copy of the ordinance. If you recall, we passed an ordinance on this, so we gave the copy of the ordinance. I expect there's going to be a lot of questions. I also expect that the landlord's going to wait until the last minute because they have until July 24th to comply. But that's the process. And what it's for is, it's looking for unsafe. So it's not that it has to be lead free. Like these units that are rental units, they can have lead in there, but the lead paint's in good condition, it's okay. So it's actually going to assessment, a safety assessment. And then if we go out there, they have their own people out there certify it, and find that there's chipping paint, there's dust, particularly on windows, the restriction points that there could be lead dust come off of, things like that. We would then notify them to the landlord what they have to do to fix it. They have to fix it, and we come back out and be certified. The certification gets sent to the state, and it's all locked at the state. And it's a $1,000 fine if they don't comply, and the township will be fined as well. So that's in the process, and if you hear anything, feel free to give me a call if you have any questions, or email. That's moving on. The last thing I have is the stormwater flooding issues we've been having, everyone's been having. I did briefly look at the Robbins Lane area. And what we actually had, and a lot of numbers get thrown around out in public and in elevations, and the Burlington Bristol Bridge is one that has been thrown out there, it's 11.99.
Right.
That's not 11.99 feet above sea level. That's 11.99 feet above a reference point, which is a negative 3.33 feet. So what it comes down to is the actual elevation above sea level is 8.66 is what the water level was at the Burlington Bristol Bridge. The Burlington Bristol Bridge, that's a NOAA station. There's a USGS station on Rickers Creek at the Route 130 bridge. Now that station, when you do the conversions, that came out at 8.01 feet above sea level. So Delanco was somewhere in the 8-foot area, 7.5 to 8 feet on the river line, feet above sea level, like what it went to. Now I've seen some of the pictures from several of you sent me pictures, and I wasn't out there to see the highest it was, and I don't know the pictures were the highest it was, but it all kind of matches. The house on Robbins Lane is an elevation about 7 to 7.5 at the foundation.
Great.
Right.
So it kind of makes sense, because I saw pictures where it went up onto the foundation a little bit, so it looks like it's probably did about a little bit less than an 8 in Delanco, on the riverfront. There's really nothing to do. The berm along the river at that location is at a 6.3. So without building a levee along the whole river, you're not stopping the flooding in the floodplain. The ditch that was installed sometime before a long time, or redone before my time, out there, was installed with digging baskets. They're rocks with wire around the porous. And that's what I assume the designer intended them to be porous. Because he could have grouted them, he could have put other things in. And it's a smaller pipe outletting through that stone, through the stone gaskets, than it's coming in. So I'm certainly assuming that he was, that they were intending that the gating baskets would let water flow through to give you outlet. And I'm guessing that the swale was built for this actual storm storage for smaller storms, because the pipes are undersized. And that's a low area for that section of town. So it was really kind of designed to handle the everyday smaller storms. So you don't have the nuisance storms, we call them. That flood like we had, nothing you can do is going to stop that. So that's kind of where we stand, and I looked at, it's interesting because the inlets on 2nd Street are about an elevation, with storm drains, are about an elevation 8 to 8.1. So everything was like right there. And what would actually happen is it would start bubbling out the inlets, which it may have, I didn't see. Did it bubble out?
It was bubbling out of the inlet right just before you get to the ditch in Robbins Lane.
Yeah, that would come out of there, that's the
Yeah.
lowest, and then in front of Mr. Binding's house,
Yeah.
that one there would have been the next one that bubbled out, and then up towards the other end, further north. So if we had a little bit bigger storm than what we actually had, it would have actually bubbled out the inlets in the streets and flooded the streets. The only way to stop that is, as we all know, we're all very familiar with now, are our check valves, like upfills or something check valve.
Well, that one actually has one on it.
And it's not working.
Yeah, it seems it's letting water through.
Yeah, what that purpose is, and that wasn't to stop water, because we're not stopping water coming in because the gating baskets are porous. That was actually put in to stop debris from running in the pipe.
Right. But the water's not getting over the baskets. There's a concrete wall there and the water's coming right through that inlet.
And that wall seems to have a little crack in it because you can see water flowing right through the wall.
Oh, it'll come through the wall, it'll come through the stone, it'll come through all that.
Yeah.
With that hydraulic head, it's gonna push through it.
So the way that's designed is it's really preventing local flooding from heavy rain coming down, like that stormwater pipe comes down from Burlington Avenue. And so if you had a solid wall there, that would trap all that water and retain it and flood those properties on either side of it, correct?
As it stands now, yes.
Yes.
It's a larger pipe that you put in, and
So-
to fix it, larger pipe. Is the duckbill got something stuck in it? It's holding it open?
It was, I don't know, you
looked
can't
kinda
see, it's only this
closed.
much of an inlet, letting water out this big.
I got down and I looked at it. But you got to understand that the amount of flooding that was going on down there.
Right.
It's not, nothing's going to stop it.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
that was
right.
clear over the property.
Yeah, definitely,
100%.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But even
You
after.
could have seen that property years ago when we had 2 underground pipes that went from the river all the way up to that first storm drain there. Okay? There was 2 pipes in there. They were so packed with debris from coming up the river and being in there year after year after year. They decided, Birdsall decided to turn it and dig it out and put a little swale in there. And then put the baskets in there. And that seemed to help, but I mean, the river is getting filled up with silt. Okay? And when we realized that you're not digging the river out and cleaning all the stuff inside of that, what's gonna happen? It's gonna be like filling a half bowl. And it's gonna continue. And I'm telling you, we have a lot of streams like that in town.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is not the only one up at the halfway house. That's the first time I seen that come up over that sidewalk.
Yeah.
I've seen it one time before.
Right.
And that stream there was a beautiful stream years ago. I mean, the fish and the wildlife in there, look at it now. It's so mucky and there's so much crap in there. It's all silt from people's streets, all the stuff that gets blown into it. And just, where's it gonna go?
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. But I guess maybe we should look at that duckbill at the end there. I took a couple videos of it if you want to see it.
Yeah, and again, that was put on for maintenance purposes to stop the silt and debris from coming up and clogging up. That was not.
Yeah.
Not for the water, just for the.
Not for the water,
ground.
because
Right.
it's already got a porous
Yeah.
digging wall there. That would just slow things down, those things
Yeah.
would slow it through the rocks than it would through the pipe, but it's not,
Act as a filter too.
that's basically what it's doing,
Yeah.
that's what it was there for.
And then the properties next door, they don't even have any kind of seawall, and they're lower than the actual berms that we built, those rock berms. Those properties
Yeah.
are lower.
Yeah.
So they fill up first.
Yes, and we did, was that last year, 2 years ago, we put a little berm, that's that little berm you see on the right-hand side, looking towards the river, just to stop the smaller storms from overflowing that ditch going
Yeah.
into that yard.
Right.
But again, that's just for your normal storms, your maybe up to a 25-year storm. Anything above that, it's gonna flood.
Right.
There's-
I didn't personally witness our berm flooding that. It was the river that flooded the backyard first. That
Right.
berm was not overflowing into that yard.
It would, by the elevations.
Right.
You're right, I agree,
Yeah.
the river coming over.
Yeah.
So is there any way that, I think maybe the residents do need a seawall or something to help protect them? Would that help them? Or can
Definitely
we
help them.
build ours up higher to even, no,
It wouldn't matter, it's coming up their yard.
it's still gonna come over, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're right, they would need a higher seawall or.
They should have a higher seawall
One
there.
to start with, they don't even have a seawall. It's just,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, that
It's just concrete.
even if they
Yeah.
were to help themselves, I can't say that, but.
Yeah,
Right.
right,
We didn't hear that strike there.
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, but yes, it was
Some creative landscaping.
some landscaping
Yeah.
there, yes, might help.
Right,
Yeah, no problem with seawall.
And the other
not a seawall.
area that we had a lot of
We
flooding
should have
on,
called ours creative landscaping officers.
the other area we had a lot of flooding on was down at the end of Delaware Avenue, between Cedar and Willow, by the little houses up there. That's a very low point. The water clearly went over, but also even at times now when it's not that high, when it's not a crazy storm, the water is still very slow getting out of those drains. If you could look at those drains, they appear very clogged inside with leaves and other
we
muck.
discussed that.
Okay.
Yes, they are clogged.
That's just a little drain about this big.
Oh, yeah, no, we saw
Yeah, it's about a
Yes,
12-inch
they
pipe
couldn't put it
outside.
in because
Yeah,
it's one of the lower
I
parts.
measure it's 12, yeah.
Oh, you meant that?
Yeah, it's 12, and you can see all the rock and stuff that went up
Yeah.
inside. I don't know if that might benefit from some sort of
Yeah.
duckbill.
That
we
would
filmed,
as well
wasn't
as
it,
cleaning
Carolyn?
that. We tried to.
It was here for film.
We could get camera down there, so, yeah, that would need to be cleaned out, and I agree with 100%, check that one there. Would be warranted, as well as when we do our seawall,
The one out there.
there's actually, the mansion has a sump pump that comes out there that we're going to connect through to go out. And there's going to be 3 to 4 drain lines coming through that we're going to put check valves on as well.
Okay.
So that we're going to flow one way. That's.
That property is a lot higher too.
That's what we do.
Mother Nature.
Well,
It is.
the sea level rise is following the predictions from the last couple decades.
Yeah.
So the state is looking at sea level rise with 1.5 to 2 feet, depending on what the high range or low range, but it's, what we experienced in the last couple of weeks, it's not gonna get better. I mean, it's gonna be over the bridge, it's gonna be over the roadways, and We need to harden our homes. If you've got utilities in the basement and you're changing something out, put it up on cinder blocks, basic things like that to start with. But, there's a lot of resources on the township website for flood protection, FEMA information, so a lot of resources there on much lower cost things to make your house defensible against floods.
Yeah, it's the high, I've been in my house for 36 years, and it's the highest I've seen.
And you're right on the creek also, right?
I'm
Yeah.
right on the bridge,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the creek.
Yeah, I was surprised. It was 7 inches higher than it was in Sandy.
Wow.
Did you get water in your basement, Harry?
No, I'm lucky enough that it came up to, I had a back deck and steps, and it covered the first step.
Yeah, mine went up in my yard too, but it didn't go down, or didn't, yeah.
Yeah, probably another 8 or 10 inches, it would have hit my house, but it wouldn't let me. So I freeboard on that.
Harry, is it true, I think in the Delran meeting they had the other day about the flooding, that the Army Corps doesn't permit them to pump the floodwater back into the creek? When the creek overflows into Delran, they weren't allowed to do anything about discharging that water back in?
Oh, I never heard that.
I could see while there was the sewer line break, they wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, they did
Yeah,
have a
but
sewer
once-
line break in Delran.
If it wasn't a sewer line break, I don't, that's news to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
I'll talk to you about it afterwards.
All right. Anything else, Harry?
That's all I have.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Fox? All right. Thank you, Harry. Doug, we didn't forget about you.
Yeah, appreciate that.
You got equal time.
I am only going to report on something that's later on your agenda, and it's really for the benefit of the public and an ongoing discussion we've had up here about the industrial zoning and our rezoning of a number of properties to the I-3 district. Last summer, we undertook that rezoning, and in September, essentially what amounts to 2 entities filed a lawsuit against the township challenging the zoning. As we talked about a couple of times, we sat down with them to figure out what their concerns were. Our concerns were proliferation of additional warehouses in the municipality and the impact that was having on the township. So when we sat down with them, we were able to sort of come to an understanding of protecting the concerns or interests they had without frustrating what we were trying to accomplish. The result of that are these settlement agreements that are on the agenda tonight. It's a settlement. Just like anything else, it's not perfect. It's not everything that would apply to the I-3 zone properties, but it does prevent the warehousing and kind of warehousing that we were endeavoring to protect against in the first place. The uses that are being proposed should not create the same concerns in terms of increased impacts and truck traffic impacts that warehouse of that size or scope would have if developed further in town. So it's, again, achieving what we were setting out to accomplish, working with the business community to make sure that we were listening to what their concerns were and resolving them as appropriate. So I am happy with where this came out. I will also say that Scott Taylor, the township planner who was here earlier, has spent considerable amount of time on this issue as well, just looking at it from a planning perspective and trying to, make sure we're accomplishing what we intended to accomplish and are not frustrating that original goal. And so those are on for action tonight. We will continue to work on those issues as they are presented, but that would resolve the litigation. And the large-scale benefit of that is that the I-3 overall would remain in place. And again, the underlying goal of what the township was trying to prevent, which is sort of substantial warehouse development in the accompanying truck traffic that goes with that, from further becoming essentially the dominant use in the entire industrial zones.
Mr. Arnold, can you just talk a little bit, and I'm not going to say a whole lot because I don't want to trip over myself, but just that there's a couple timelines or a couple requirements that this will reappear both here and at the planning board. And that doesn't necessarily mean that something broke down, but this is part of a normal process to execute this.
So in terms of real world impacts, what we anticipate out of the settlement process is that 401 Creek Road, which had a couple of development proposal iterations on it previously, one for a, what I'll call an aggressive fleet maintenance yard, and then a warehouse, and now a significantly scaled down fleet maintenance yard. The intent of the settlement is to allow what they originally proposed for the site, but at a significantly reduced footprint that will allow for substantial buffers around that property and protect the adjacent property owners, and provide a secluded location for them to carry out that type of use. That's really the only anticipated visual change that the municipality is likely to see for years. The other properties across from that at 450 and 500 are likely to stay pretty much as they are right now, although we understand that Vroom is, if not bankrupt, essentially scaling down to a significant amount where their used car operations won't be operating anymore. And then the other piece of property is the Farrow Point property. Stylex occupies that. Stylex was recently acquired by a company called Flock, but they're a furniture manufacturing company, and the anticipation is that that name and use will continue as Stylex at that site for another 4 or 5 years at a minimum. Farrow Point has said that they would love to keep that tenant even beyond that, but that's the anticipation with that. This will result in further action at our level. This will result in further action at the planning board level, both in referral of planning documents and in referral of actual land use application by the 401 Creek property, which is a company called Criterion. I've found the corporate entities to be reasonable and, understanding what the township's concerns were, fairly expressing what their concerns were, and then working with us to try and come to some mutual ground that doesn't leave them hanging out to dry and doesn't frustrate what we were trying to do in the first place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Doug?
That's all tonight.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Schwab, our Township Administrator.
Okay, thank you. Of course, the ongoing budget planning, we have a meeting, our next meeting is the 26th of February, and after the regular agenda for that meeting, there'll be a work session, and I'll be inviting the representatives from the various organizations that are funded by the budget. Then in the afternoon of Tuesday the 27th, we have a work session with our auditor, who will have completed the annual financial statement, and we'll be able to see what the impact is of all the requests on actual tax rates and operations, and we'll look at capital items. You have in your agenda a number of things that one is the cybersecurity grant. There's a minor change, save us a couple dollars, that Bev and Janice put on your dais. We also have in this consent agenda the first reading of ordinance for the purchase of a street sweeper, where the state stormwater management plan requires that we do what we like to do also, which is sweep our streets more often, keep debris out of the waters. so they don't get silted up, as Mr. Fenimore explained. The purpose is to buy the sweeper. We are negotiating with our neighbors for a shared service agreement for them to be paying part of the cost to get use. But we have to take step one, which is fund the sweeper. We have the down payment money was funded in last year's budget, so this is to make the next step. For purchasing, you'll see a temporary capital budget also, which covers that. As a follow-up to what Harry talked about with the seawall, based on the fact we're ready to go, and we have a timetable, you'll see at your next, in the month of March, there'll be a similar capital ordinance for supplemental funding for the seawall based on the last estimate that he gave us last year. We funded the down payment, but we didn't do the ordinance until we knew we actually had a project to go ahead with. So now we're ready to go. You'll see that coming up. The other things I sent you, we got today, the county history grant was approved, second year in a row that our history board has successfully gotten a county grant, and so we'll be moving forward on that. It'll be either included as a in our budget, or there'll be a separate resolution to amend the temporary budget if we want to move faster than the regular budget allows. So those are the things we're working on right now.
Thank you, Richard. Let's go to the department heads. Chief Tilger.
Good evening, thank you, Mayor. My report's fairly short. I'll start off with January's statistics from the police department. They initiated 17 police cases. There were 111 motor vehicle stops conducted. There were 49 motor vehicle violations issued. They handled 807 calls for service. They handled 6 motor vehicle accidents. They made 5 adult arrests and 5 contempt arrests. I presented the budget to the Township Committee since our last meeting. Recruit Orff is progressing through the Atlanta County Police Academy, and he's on pace to graduate in April. They're more than halfway done. Recruit Kearns is scheduled to begin the Gloucester County Police Academy next Monday. And this past Friday, we had our vehicles calibrated for the first time of the year. They do that 2 times a year. And that's all I have for the report tonight.
Thank you, Chief. Mike?
Chief, are you happy with the renovation of your side of the building?
What is it?
Are you happy with the renovation?
Yeah, we are.
With the results?
We are. I anticipate hearing from State Department of Corrections probably in the next 2 months, 2.5 months. And at that point, I think we'll successfully have, done ourselves a favor with what we did with the renovations to avoid the headache that we've been facing for many years since we moved into this building.
Never easy. Never easy.
No, a lot of work.
Hopefully the Department of Corrections is just as happy.
We've been in communication, and they seem to be. It's just the final checkoff is what's needed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything for the chief? All right, let's go over to Mr. Fenimore.
Good evening. We picked up 24 cubic yards of brush from related storm and Christmas tree pickup. We cleaned up Gateway Park and the end of Rancocas and Pennsylvania. There was a lot of debris around there. We cleaned up the boat ramp. The boat ramp took 14 loads of debris with the loader. Fortunately, we had a dumpster out back that we utilized, so that helped. We cleaned up the Babe Ruth field. We also did some cleaning up on Delaware Avenue from Cedar and Willow. The tide came up. That's a real low point there. We started turning the leaves, and boy, they are really wet. That's all I can say, which is good. We're going to start cleaning up the West Avenue field and the firehouse. And then we started inspecting the storm drains. We found one of the storm drains down at Oakford in Delaware. The bricks are falling in, so I'm going to have the county road department, they're going to bring somebody in and take care of it for us. And we finally cleaned up for Pete, the historical boy up there on Poplar Street, and we edged and raked it all up and kind of made it, dressed it up nice and cleaned it up for him, so.
Looks very good.
Hopefully that'll be done,
Yeah, looks nice.
and that's it.
John, that was 14 dump trucks out of,
No, 14 loads with the loader.
oh, with the loader, okay, and that was at
We
the boat
did-
ramp
it
on
was-
Delaware Ave?
It was the debris. What I did is I pulled out all the trash from the debris. And then what do you do with that debris? The big stuff we had to take out, cut up. So I made 3 loads just with the big debris that we made. We put that in the dumpster. And then I called the county and I said, look, I got all this wood debris. What am I supposed to do with it? I said, it's got a lot of trash in it. And so he said, just put it in the dumpster and bring it, to the dump. So that's what we did.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fenimore. Mrs. Lahr?
Actually, I'm going to turn my report over to Harry and Bev. They attended the last community development block grant required meeting, and it was Delanco's turn to have their spotlight presentation. So I'll let them give their report on that CDGB meeting.
Yes, Karen and I attended the CDG meeting on January 11th, via Zoom, and Karen gave a wonderful presentation, discussing our plans going forward with the handicap accessible ramps at all the streets. Talked about the project that we have underway now that we'll be doing in the spring, and we were the first to get our 2024 application in.
Yes.
We were very happy about that.
They were very happy about that.
Talked about, that we've identified 160 areas in need of grants, replacements, or repairs. And, we applied again this year for 37 of the worst case scenarios. And, last year, the amount of money that we got, we'll be able to do 10 grants, and that's, using $50,000 from the CDBG and $6,000 that's not covered by the grant. Couple of changes going forward. The HUD is really going to be looking at timeliness of starting projects, spending the money, in getting reimbursed. I don't know how that will back out going forward. Deadline is still going to be September.
Yeah, deadline is still September for the future project. And we are ahead of schedule. We're above everyone else. So they're very happy about that. But they're very concerned because it's HUD money and HUD audits the county. And HUD makes all the rules that the county has to follow, basically. So HUD is shortening the timeline that we have spending money after they give us the grant. So the process through Richard, how we started our design before we get the grant worked very well because we're much more timely with it. So we should be fine going in the future, but some other towns are going to be in trouble because they're not getting things done. But yeah, so we're all set. We're good to go. Well done.
Yeah, good job on
Good
that.
job,
guys.
Harry.
Yeah,
And,
thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
She keeps me on my toes, trust me.
She keeps us all on our toes.
I have a question for John. Gateway Park, the lights aren't working at the gazebo, and apparently that breaker keeps, yeah, it needs to be replaced. It's not very good, and it could be a problem, so
Okay.
could you call Chuck about that? Maybe he can do something there?
I know Phil was involved in that too, with the electrician, right? You were dealing?
We're waiting for the electrician to get free time to get back out there.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Because he also has to add 2 additional outlets to where the pump station, sprinkler system station.
Oh, okay. I did notice there was a water bill for Gateway Park, and I was wondering why, if we had the water turned off.
I think there's always a minimum
Yeah,
bill
minimum.
each month.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
It's minimum.
We even
Oh,
get
'cause
a,
the bill's not usually much more than that anyway.
yeah, Field of Dreams, we get, if there's zero usage, we get, I think it's $180 a month. It's, American Water bases it on the size of the main that goes in there.
Oh, okay.
And the size
I
of the
just
meter.
thought it was strange, because I don't remember seeing
Yeah.
that in the winter before.
And I did mention to Phil, talk to the plumber out there, because I was looking at the bill and it showed we had about 2,000 gallons of usage actually of water at Field of Dreams
Yeah.
in the, between December 22nd and January 22nd. And unless we got a leak out there, we shouldn't be using any water. So I mentioned that to Phil. He's going to talk to the plumber about that.
Wasn't there something with the electric?
We had that problem a couple of years ago,
Yeah, the electric too.
and we did find a leak.
Yeah, I think that we didn't see anything on this month, so
Okay.
I guess that was whatever was left over.
I thought it was 300 and something this week.
And I know it was high.
Yeah, I think I wrote it down. I thought it was 300 and something this month. Anyway, we should look
You know,
into it.
there's now a separate bill for the, towards the, well, there's two separate bills. It's not just the bill for the building.
It's the FOD, yeah.
There's another FOD that has nothing to do with the building, has to do with the irrigation system,
Yeah,
Okay,
All right.
which is the same kind of minimum.
got you.
all right.
Was there anything else that you had on your report, Bev or Janice?
That's all I had, thank you.
Okay. Alrighty, consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are continued to be, considered to be routine and will be enacted with a single motion. Any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Is there anything anyone would like removed from the consent agenda?
I'd like to have resolutions 41 and 42 treated separately, just if any committee members would like to make a comment on that during a separate vote on those two items.
Sure.
And also resolutions 43 and 44, separate consideration or discussion.
All right, so 41 through 44.
Correct. Thank you.
Vern or Kate or Carolyn?
Nope.
Good.
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Ordinance 2024-2, a bond ordinance of the Township of Delanco in the County of Burlington, authorizing the acquisition of vehicles and equipment, appropriating the sum of $300,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $285,000 bonds or notes of the township for financing such appropriations, and making certain determinations and covenants, and authorizing certain related actions in connection with the foregoing. First reading by title only, and set public hearing date for February 26, 2024 at 7 p.m. Ordinance 2024-3, amending Chapter 295 governing vehicles and parking. First reading by title only, and set public hearing date for February 26, 2024 at 7 p.m. Resolution 2024-37, the 2024 temporary capital budget. Resolution 2024-38, award of bid and contract for Field of Dreams turf maintenance. Resolution 2024-39, refunding street opening permit to New Jersey American Water for various street openings for a water main installation and replacement project. Resolution 2024-40, fiscal year 2023 state and local cybersecurity grant program, SLCGB. Payment of bills. Current fund, $1,377,453.85. Payroll, $129,482.93. Capital fund, $13,200. Dog trust, $90. Escrow trust, $7,456.25. Housing trust, $34. Approval of minutes from November 13th, December 4th, and December 18th, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve those consent agenda items?
Second,
Motion by Ms. Seuss, second by Ms. Fitzpatrick. Roll call, please, Janice.
Ms. Fitzpatrick?
yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. All right, go back through those items that were pulled. Resolution 2024-41, resolution authorizing and directing the execution of, I'm sorry, Jocelyn, Richard?
Top of the next page, you gotta do the minutes.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah, we
he's
missed
going
one.
back to the other ones.
Okay, before you do that.
Yeah. You're
All
good.
right, we're good? All right.
Yeah, you're good.
Resolution 2024-41, resolution authorizing and directing the execution of settlement agreement to resolve 401 Creek Road Industrial LLC et al. Versus Township as to properties at 401, 450, and 500 Creek Road.
So move. Are we voting on it? Is that what you want? Or, I mean, I think Doug gave an excellent, explanation of what we're doing. This is the resolution authorizing the settlement agreement for Matt to sign. So I would move, yes, that we go ahead and accept this.
Mr. Templeton, was it just your desire to make a comment at the time of your vote?
Yes.
Okay. Can I make a suggestion that we just do both together then?
If you want?
Okay?
Yeah.
That's,
Sure.
that fits the bill, yes, thank you.
And so we'll also do with this vote 2024-42, resolution authorizing and directing the execution of settlement agreement to resolve 401 Creek Road Industrial LLC et al. Versus Township as to the property at 740 Coopertown Road. Motion?
Yes, and I will make that motion, and I think that the township, I know Carolyn and I worked on this ordinance initially to stop warehousing in Delanco, and for just having two of the businesses come forward to object to our ordinance was pretty good when you think of all the businesses that were involved, and this negotiation actually worked out pretty good for both parties. So I'm very happy with the settlement that we came to.
I'll second the motion to approve resolution 41 and 42.
All right, motion by Ms. Fitzpatrick, second by Ms. Seuss. We have a roll call, please, Janice?
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
Yes, and I do appreciate Mr. Heinhold's extensive description and elaboration on this, the contents of these two agreements. I'm hopeful that it will do everything it's advertised as, and what the township and what Mr. Heinhold has worked towards. But like a lot of things in this area that the township deals with, there's often not the perfect solution or a great solution, but a less onerous destiny or future. So I vote yes on this and hope for a good future for these properties. Thank you.
Okay.
That was for Resolution 2024-41 and Resolution 2024-42. 5 committee members voting in the affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. All right, resolution 2024-43, resolution of the Township of Delanco authorizing the live streaming of audio and video of township committee meetings. Any objection to putting these two together, or?
No, I just,
Okay. Let me just read the second one then.
did I, on 43, I'm not sure, did I miss a meeting or this discussion on that we were going to be doing this as a committee?
I think we've done that over the last couple meetings, and we've discussed streaming meetings over the last 2 years, Mike.
I know we've discussed it, but we've been working towards that because we know, excuse me, it's, as we saw during COVID, during the Zoom meetings, it's, the participation, the involvement of the community, it's a great thing. But due to technical difficulties, the expense of a lot of systems that were explored, we were going to be methodically going through this. And I just found out that this is being streamed live. I thought this was I know you've been taking the audio recordings for the last couple of months, and I just thought this was a personal recording, which is permitted and has been permitted for many years by anyone. But I didn't realize until recently that this was going out somehow on the internet, and we never had that discussion on implementing this or anything. And I just wonder why that happened or how that happened.
Well, as I mentioned, we've been talking about this doing streaming for a few years now, 2-3 years since COVID started. There has not been any movement to actually get that done.
Okay.
And I was able to actually get that done for no cost.
But there's a couple of us up here in the governing body that normally we talk about things and we make a joint decision on that. It's not something that one individual says, I'm going to do this. And I heard secondhand that this was advertised on social media, and how does that happen?
The meetings have been advertised on social media well before I've been on township committee.
This
Not
format.
advertised, put out there that there's a meeting, that there's an available stream.
On this.
Correct. Well, that there's a meeting, it's been advertised, put out there, a regular meeting. Streaming it, that's put out there as well, that you could come to the meeting, you could come watch the stream.
Well,
It's my understanding it's an administrative process now, and the office is handling it, and it's through the Delanco Township YouTube page. It's not something that the committeeman is doing, it's something through the office now.
And Mr. Olet actually last, was it, I'm going to say September, October,
Yeah.
when he mentioned putting the audio on the Delanco page, which Ms. Laura and Ms. Russell was able to put up through the same YouTube page.
yeah, I recall that,
Mhm.
and that was aired out, but this was never discussed.
How
So-
is it any
And
different?
I'm just wondering, if you did it on your own, why didn't you talk to the rest of us? Or, I'm just understanding why, if you're gonna act on something that's for the township committee that represents this municipality, that's why we're all here. You just don't go do something.
To me, it's no different than recording the audio and putting it on the website.
Well,
You're just
it's-
putting the
It's
video with it. It's the same exact thing. It's just transparency.
It's
Well,
transparency.
You know, we were working towards that.
Mike, you had 2 years while you were mayor to get
Yes.
something done, and it was not done.
It's
Right.
transparency.
I had it up.
We didn't have that technology then.
iPhones didn't exist in 2000?
We didn't.
2020?
We tried it, and it was a disaster.
Sorry, you couldn't get it to work right. I changed nothing in here.
I'm
Okay?
grateful that you were able to get it done and there was no
But
cost.
this is, now where does this go?
It goes on YouTube, the same place the audio goes.
So this is going out on a media platform. These people were before Congress last week that basically said that they couldn't control content. And, you know, this meeting is next to what on YouTube? Is it next to someone ski jumping off a mountain? Is it next to somebody?
It's on Delanco Township's YouTube page, so unless someone is putting someone ski jumping off a mountain on our YouTube page, then it's next to last week's meeting. Next week will be next to this week's meeting.
This
but
is not something new.
You don't,
Every other
you
town
don't
in the
see
world
anything
does
wrong
this.
that we didn't discuss it.
Actually, we've been discussing it for a
I
number
know,
of years.
but executing it,
And we have wanted to do it.
I know, that's all given, but it would have been nice, we have this, whatever equipment, we're gonna do it through this portal or this media platform. I think the governing body should have had input or at least an opportunity to comment on that.
So I guess we can all comment right now then, and maybe
Well-
we should do that because it's a resolution to do it, and as far as I'm concerned, I think it's transparency. It gives an opportunity for the residents who cannot attend these meetings
Oh, it's great, that's
to see
acknowledged.
what we're doing. And
But I
that's
think-
exactly what we're doing. We were doing the audio for a while. Now we were able to live stream it, just like the school board meetings are done. And it gives me an opportunity when I can't attend a school board meeting to sit in on their meetings. I actually went through their ethics class one night, which was pretty, a lot of good information I learned about the school board. But
Which,
so
by the way, the school board meetings are on YouTube.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good tool for the township to reach other residents in town, and I see no harm in it. I applaud Matt for moving forward with it, and so they're my comments.
So, like I
Carolyn,
said,
you want to comment? You want to
Excuse me?
comment,
Yeah,
Matt?
Mike, you've had it, well, let the other people do it. Carolyn?
Yeah.
Vern?
I mean, I echo what Kate said. I think, maybe he just doesn't like the way the process was, but, we've been talking about it for a few years, and if, the mayor was able to get the technology and not have any cost to taxpayers, it's literally no different than just putting audio and visual together. We're already recording the audio, we already post the audio. Why not just have the visual and the live stream so people can see it happening? I mean, it's 2024. This is not some new technology. Every other town in the world does this. we're not, spearheading some big event. I mean, like I said, the Board of Education meetings are also live streamed and they're recorded and then posted on YouTube as well. So, I mean, I understand you get upset with the processes and how we don't talk about things, but I mean, the resolutions are on here. Matt's donating the video equipment as well, so, I'm for it. And the transparency part of it as well.
Right.
Yeah. I guess I go back to like 2005, when we had residents who came in because we weren't allowed to record back then, and actually took notes and sent notes out to the community, and things evolved, and we're to the point where we did try the Zoom meetings, and things didn't work because of technology, and we were worried about acoustics and those type of issues, and COVID, and we were able to do the Zoom, where we were remote. So that was a good thing. We had a lot of participation. I guess Mr. Templeton's comment of how it evolved, and maybe what should have happened would have been that, hey, we're to this point and we want to start doing this, or we're going to run a test and do this, and let the public know. My opinion is that now that we have this format, that in our sunshine statement, that we should have in there a comment that says this is being live streamed, and we'll know that, but also for the residents who may be shy about getting out on the public format and saying during public comment, they may not feel comfortable in doing that, but at least they'll know when they get up there to speak that, hey, I'm on live stream and people are seeing me actually doing this or saying what, making comments. So those are good things, but I guess my point is this is a good thing to have happen, and how it evolved again is probably just maybe it's a formality.
Yeah.
Of letting everyone know, hey, this is where we're at, this is where we'd like to go, and just get input at that point, as opposed to having it show up on the agenda. And then, whether, and I don't believe there's any issues as far as legality of doing this, and from a technology standpoint, we ran it by our IT people, just to make sure that we're covered there and with our GIF insurance. If there's any questions that may be there, prior to going forward. I don't think there is, but.
Yeah, we could certainly ask Dan, the IT guy, but this isn't involved with any township IT infrastructure whatsoever. But we could certainly bring that to his attention.
Just make sure, if we're tying this in with our Delanco Township website, or delancotownship.com, where folks can access our Delanco YouTube access through that, if there's a connection or anything there that we need to be concerned about. That's all.
And I think Mrs. Lohr did that, or Mrs. Russell did that when they put the audio up, because it's the same link to the Delanco YouTube page. I know they talked to Dan about that, because he's the one who set up the Delanco YouTube page.
Dan
did back in October, or whenever that was.
Okay.
Whatever month you brought that up.
And that's a comfort level for me to know that Dan, our IT person, was involved in this.
That's what I was trying to say when I said it's an administrative process. It's not something he's doing on his own. It's through the township administration and the office. They're handling it. He just happened to say, hey guys, this is what we can do. Here's the technology. You guys handle it, basically. So.
Yeah. So it's transparency, just having the communication and the respect among ourselves to go forward with work for the public.
Anything else, Mike?
Well, just to close out, I mean, as has been said, and I've agreed, when I was mayor, going through COVID and all the Zooms, looking at pages and pages of Zoom page screens with so many people that were able to attend, and, they're home with families and pedaling as fast as they can with kids and work and everything else, that they could be in the room on the screen with us and so forth. I guess the process, I was very disappointed to see this pop up. When I heard about it, I went looking for it. I couldn't find it on the website. I was disappointed that a more reputable media platform could be used rather than YouTube because of all the horrible things that are on YouTube at times that you cannot control, and that, as we heard last week before Congress, YouTube does not control. There's two favorite words that I've learned in my time on committee. Mr. Heinhold's consensus, I love that word, and Mr. Schwab's process. And for this, we missed those 2 points. We missed those 2 actions that, as a committee, we were able to participate and comment on it as we are now, well after something was done. But anyway, hopefully we get a real system that's wholly controlled by the township and in-house and with the professional equipment. Thank you.
Just to
real quick.
comment on that, this is fully controlled by the township. Go ahead, Karen.
What other reputable site were you thinking to host videos? There really isn't.
It's literally the world's largest video platform.
Sharing platform.
But if someone types in Delanco and gets decapitation instead,
And they spelled Delanco wrong, because you do not have that
Yeah,
pop up.
that doesn't happen.
So,
All right. So Resolution 2024-43, resolution of the Township of Delanco authorizing the live streaming of audio and video of Township Committee meetings, as well as Resolution 2024-44, authorizing acceptance of donation of video streaming equipment. Have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Carolyn and Fern, roll call, please. Janice?
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
I'm disappointed that the committee did not have a part in this process. I applaud that public access, that's something we've been working towards and have had hoped to have a completely compliant system installed here. So, no.
And Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. All right, and I think we need to go back to the approval of minutes that's on here from November 20th.
Mayor, before we
Please.
leave this topic, since Mr. Olet asked that a statement be added to the agenda, I just want to clarify, we could add something after the sunshine statement. I'd rather not mix it in with the statement that's required under the Open Public Meetings Act.
Janice, you're reading my mind.
We do that. So what I'd like to do is, after the sunshine statement's actually a legal statement that must be made at open public meetings as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. The statement I'd like to then add to the agenda after the sunshine statement would be, as in the resolution, say, this meeting is being live streamed via YouTube, and then just say, as the resolution said, the streaming of this meeting is not intended to be relied upon as formal public access under Open Public Meetings Act, and if the technology is disrupted for any reason, the township meeting will proceed in person as an official meeting in accord with the official notice. I think that's really important because we didn't publish the annual meeting schedule to include a live stream. This is more of a courtesy, so that if the transmission is disrupted, which I think it has been, but we don't have to stop this meeting here. So is everybody okay with adding that to the agenda after the Open Public Meetings Act
Yes.
statement?
Yes.
Does that meet legal
Yep, I like
requirements?
it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, committee.
We don't need to pay Doug, we could just pay Janice for the legal advice. That'd be great.
No. Yeah. Never mind.
Okay, approval of minutes from November 20th, 2023. Need a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Carolyn, second by Kate to approve the November 20th, 2023 minutes. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Abstain.
Thank you. Ms. Seuss?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. Correspondence, please.
We have one piece of correspondence. It was included in your packet. We received correspondence from Suzanne Perez, tendering her resignation from the Delanco Shade Tree Commission. And that is all the correspondence that I have.
All right.
Do we need a motion to accept her resignation?
You
or-
can.
Yeah, I did speak to Suzanne, and I did have the opportunity to attend a couple Shade Tree Commission meetings, and she certainly, for the short period of time that she was on there, she took a real interest in the process and the procedures, and I'm sorry to see her step down, because she would have been a real asset to that group. But I understand her work schedule doesn't allow that and the Hen Advisory Board, so I would make a motion that we accept her resignation with regret.
I'll second that as well.
You could do it all in favor, Mayor.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Regrets.
With regrets. All right. Was that it, Janice, for correspondence?
Yeah, and I think I marked it at the bottom of that correspondence. What that does, creates that vacancy in her position, her term on Shade Tree, which was due to expire 12/31/27.
All right. So if anybody in the room is interested in filling a vacancy on Shade Tree, please send your letter of interest to Mrs. Lohr.
I think they have other vacancies too, don't they?
They do. They have one other regular position, and the alternates are vacant. So Shade Tree needs members.
So everyone in this room, we expect your letters by tomorrow. Thank you. All right, meeting is now open to the public for comments and questions. This is session number 2. If you have a comment or question, approach the podium. Please give your name and address for the record.
Todd Burke, I live at 1506 2nd Street. And first of all, let me just say that I hope you all can hear me nice and loud and clear, because it's really hard to hear a lot of you throughout this whole meeting. And I've complained about this before, and I'll reiterate my complaint, that unless you're speaking nice and clear and slow into the microphone, we can't hear what you're talking about. Mr. Fox, and I'm going to come back to you with a question, so don't leave so fast. I can't hear much of what you say when you turn your head away from the microphone, but I can see you throwing up your hands with desperation and unfounded, in my opinion, conclusions about what can or can't be done to alleviate the flooding problems. We'll come back to that. I'm a big fan of YouTube. It's a platform for catastrophes. I can't imagine why this group would want to have a live streaming onto YouTube, because you're just asking for trouble. It's not the kind of setup that lends itself towards interested residents looking at a YouTube live stream video. It just isn't. The only thing you see about school board meetings, for example, that's on YouTube is when a fist fight breaks out. I don't really think that's a great direction to go. Mr. Heinrich, friendly thought. Now that we have all of these gigantic, horrible, ugly, but I assume permissible warehouses all over our township here, I wanted to ask if there's been any thought to asking whoever owns these gigantic boxes that are so ugly and horrible looking and have taken up so much of wildlife space, if they wouldn't mind chipping in some money towards beautifying both their own sites and the township in general. For example, with this 1/2 block, $250,000 park or any of the parks, or anything that goes on to Delanco, these warehouses, whatever they're doing, which the average pedestrian or driver like myself has no idea, we know that they look horrible and they make Delanco look bad. How about asking them for some contributions to start making Delanco look good again? Just a friendly thought, okay? I don't know if it's been considered. I'm a novice here. It's only my second meeting, although I've been in Delanco for 6 or 7 years now. But just a thought. If you want to take up space with those giant warehouses and boxes, why don't you contribute to beautifying the entire township? Now, Mr. Cox, I can't imagine, and calling on the Heinz property, my neighbor, a gentle swale to alleviate some of the storm flow problems is really ridiculous. It's a horrible, dangerous gully and trench. And what it has caused is a disaster amongst all of the other residents up and down the river. I can't imagine that this project was put in without some kind of an environmental impact study being done at all sorts of different levels of government. I'm just asking, assuming that there was done, I'd like to have a copy of it, please. I don't know when it was done, how it was done, or by whom. I assume there's all sorts of layers in government involved here, but I assume that you have readily available to you the environmental impact study from putting in that catastrophe on Kathleen's property, and I'd like to see a copy of it as soon as you could produce that for me.
Mr. Berg, if you're asking for any copies of documents from the township, you need to...
I can't hear you, man.
If you're asking for any sorts of documents from the township, you need to fill out an open public, an Oprah request with the clerk's office. You could submit that form to Mrs. Lohr.
Okay, that's fine. There was a study done, right?
Listen, first off, let me apologize that you couldn't hear me.
I still can't. The microphone.
These mics are working. Janice, can you put your headphones on? Can you hear?
Yeah, please understand, these are not microphones these are recording microphones. Right. The technology is for recording, not amplification. So you really need, well, you really need to be right on top of these mics. Right, so when someone is sitting back, turns their head, while it's still recording, it's not, you lose the amplification.
You want that on YouTube? Because I don't. Go ahead, Mr. Fox.
Again, can you hear me now?
Yes, much better, thank you. I missed your whole report. I'm not going to ask you to repeat it, right? I can't hear anything that you were talking about.
Understood. I just wanted to clarify, since you did not hear what I was saying. That was way before my time in the ditch. I don't know how it was put in, I don't know who put it in.
Okay, you occupy the office now. The office has records. I don't care if it was before your time or not. I know you have records of it in your office.
We do not, and I actually requested to have to look for some records if they could find any, and I don't think they could find any at the time.
There was you're saying there was no environmental impact study done on what would happen if this culvert project was put in?
I have no idea who did it, how it was done. I don't have any evidence for it. I do know it was before my time, and I heard that Berksall Engineering, who was the previous engineer for the township, did the design and had that constructed. But that's hearsay. That's I don't even know that for a fact. I've never seen a plan. I've never seen a document.
But as mentioned, if you want to submit the Oprah request to Mrs. Lohr.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, we've looked into this. Berksall Engineering did upgrades to the ditch and the bulkhead and the whatever that valve is or that pipe is there. When that was put in years ago, I don't know that we have those records. If you're talking about the improvements with Berksall Engineering that were done, we may have that information, but as far as when that was actually installed, that is a long, long time ago. Maybe Mr. Fenimore can give more information on, when you're talking about what we locally call Glitter's Gulch, right?
In the Robbins Lane.
Robbins Lane, right.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, John, do you have an idea when
we
that,
did two-
not Bertzel's improvements,
That was Bill Burchall that designed that.
but
There
that ditch was
two-
there a long
two
time.
improvements that they made.
Mr. Fenimore, here.
One,
Talk to me.
one is at the end of Ash Street, okay, which we had problems flooding out. So they put a little swale in there that helped that problem. The owner of the house that Kate lives, okay, was Rosenthal.
Right.
He was complaining nonstop. Both of the pipes were clogged up, okay? They were so clogged up, they couldn't be jetted out, so they had to rip them all out. They put a swale in there to help contain the water that comes down that draining line, okay? And it worked. It's worked. It's doing its job, like trapping the water from going down onto Kate's property. We try to channel it to go into that swale to get it to go out to the river, and it has worked. The years before, that property was so flooded out, the trees were all washed up all along there. The guy that was living in Kate's house, Rosenthal was his name, he complained nonstop to the township. Nonstop. I want something done. So the township committee agreed to do this project. They did it. They had to rip all the pipes out. They were clogged with debris like you would not believe. And that's where it originated from.
Okay. I can't argue with that because, I wasn't here at the time. I can tell you that what has been done has made the situation worse. Because what you have is a nipple valve at the end of that culvert that when the water comes over the nipple valve, because it can't come in, it goes downstream and it floods over her shore and our shore and all the rest of
But it comes over the whole riverbank. It does not come over that stream or that nipple that you're referring to. The reason why the screen was put there to help alleviate some of the pressure from the water that's coming up. That is the lowest area of town. That area is the lowest area of the town. The engineer can tell you that. And when you get all that water that's coming off of Burlington Avenue, coming down all these streets, where's it going to go?
I'll tell you where it's going to go. It's not going to go up the storm sewer. It's going to come right up. Look, I was there. I was watching what the water was doing because I live right there. And I can tell you that the water was coming up over that culvert because the nipple valve won't allow water in. It only lets water out. And when it's underneath the water level, the water's got nowhere to go but up into Kathleen's yard, and then mine, and then my neighbor, and then the neighbor down the street.
Well, before that line was even put in, before you was here,
Yeah.
there's been a problem of flooding out down there way before you even got here, which you don't know.
You're right, and I believe you, of course. I'm only saying that when a project like that is done, I can't imagine that there wasn't a study done about the environmental impact. There has to be.
Well, yeah, there probably wasn't at that time, I assure you.
Well,
I don't think
okay.
How many decades ago was this done,
EIS
John, about?
80s, 90s?
Oh, it had to be more than 20, because I've been on township committee for 22 years, so it's been 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, it's
Well, as
got
far as the improvement projects have gone, it's made it worse. Since I've been there, it's made it worse. And I understand the record high tide. I mean, I gather all of that. I'm not one to argue with facts and science and stuff.
How can we stop that?
I don't know. But what has been done there has made it worse. It's just worse.
Mr. Berg, 2 weeks ago, when that storm came through, no matter what that gully looked like, that water was coming over your seawall and Kate's seawall, and nothing that could have been done there would have stopped that.
No,
That,
I'll
that was
tell you
coming
what
over the
I did
seawall
stop
first.
Coming over is I was out there on my hands and knees for weeks and months at a time building my own amateur seawall, all right? A seawall would stop that. But no seawall was put in, and all that's happened is everything is washed away in the meantime, especially since all these improvements, and that's making it worse and worse.
But those are private properties. We can't put a seawall there. If you want to put a seawall on your property
You have
and...
my permission to put a seawall on my private property. Go right ahead. Construction can start tomorrow. You got my okay.
Thank you, Mr. Burke.
You're welcome. It's worse. You understand? It's worse. Whatever has been done on that project has made the whole situation worse, and it's going to get worse. You can't have a project like that or improve it. You cannot have this stuff done without having an impact study. I don't believe it. You can't have that done. Somebody has to answer for that.
It was 30 years ago, that they didn't do impact studies
Over 30
back
years
then.
ago, from what
Yeah.
Kate's saying.
Oh, it has to be over 30 years, or more. I don't want to tell you my age, but, I mean, I've been in Delanco for a long time, and it had to be at least, I would say 40 years, John.
At
At
I
least.
would say more
And
like 30.
30.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
30.
yeah. And that was with, because Birdsall was here when I first got on Township Committee, but I think the improvement that he made was before I got on Township Committee. So I've been on 22 years, so Birdsall's improvement was before me on here. Because he was here for quite a few years. He was with the
could
sewer.
possibly be in
I would
record.
say, you're right, John, about 30 years.
Yeah.
It could be
Yeah.
possibly, it could have been, who knows?
And
at
I-
the time.
And I don't know
We
that
were-
environmental studies were required at that time. I don't know that I don't know. I don't know whether there were DEP approvals because that gulch was always there because kids used to go down there and swim off of that area. Just walk right down there.
Before the head wall was put in.
Yeah. That was just a low-lying
They
area.
probably could do that before it all washed away in the past few years, but you can't do it now.
Well, you can't do it now because
No.
it's been blocked
It's all
off.
washed away. That's my point.
No, what I'm saying was it was never a permanent structure. It was just an area, a low-lying area where kids would walk down to go swimming or wade in. It wasn't a structure of any kind.
Okay. Matt, I know that you and Carolyn have been there to see that particular site.
Mhm.
I can tell you that it is visibly getting worse and worse as time goes by. Something's going to have to be done about it sooner or later.
What aspect is getting worse? What do you mean?
It's washing away all of the property and soil and everything else underneath that pipe. That's why they put up a fence and made improvements to keep people from falling into, you call it a swale, I call it a ditch. But nonetheless, the reason why you can't walk down there and go swimming is because everything's been washed away. And it's washed away because the project was poorly done. This can't have been the desired result. It can't. I'll fill out a form,
Thank you, Mr. Burke.
okay? And we'll see what comes as a result of that. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, you all know I have a bad ankle and I just gave my time.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Anyone else have any comments or
You should
questions?
have my cane.
Can you hear us okay?
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Mike McNeil, McNeil. So I just want to commend this board on taking the step of live streaming on these proceedings. I think it's a great step for making these proceedings accessible and increasing the transparency of this body to the public. It's a step and it's a win for democracy and good government. And I especially want to thank Mr. Bartlett for his generous donation. And just as an aside, and I could be mistaken, but I believe one of the benefits of putting videos up on YouTube is Google's ability to auto-generate closed caption, which could assist those citizens with hearing impairment.
Right, yeah, that absolutely is a true point, and I believe when I tested everything out a couple of weeks ago and I had the closed caption mode on, and it did exactly what you said automatically.
Mr. McNeil, what is your profession?
I'm an attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Oh, we've missed you, Ray. We thought you ran away.
You better watch what you say.
Is your name and address for the record?
Ray Weber, 22 Ships Way. Newton's Lane, couple things. Newton's Lane painting, the stripe that they did, it's coming off.
Yep,
Big job.
agree.
I mean,
Yep,
it's
that's,
horrible, man.
I was out.
Harry did report that. I don't know if you couldn't hear him
I
back there.
know he did.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm just
Okay.
letting Harry know, hey, I agree with you.
Yeah,
You know?
I understand.
I want that every day.
I was out there the 2 days after it was done. I looked at that, and that's exactly what I reported to Harry as soon as I saw that.
Okay, Rich, I want to thank you for your help. You helped us out.
You're welcome.
It takes care, it helps us with insurance and everything else too, so thank you, Rich, I appreciate it.
He's a keeper.
Yeah, I know, keep it. John, number of our storm drains. There's about 10 or 12 of them that have numbers painted on them. And a number of them don't have anything painted on them. Now, we have a number of them, they're getting worse, they've been broke, they're broke. They're breaking. Parts are hitting and so forth, and then it's just, you know, so, I don't know what's going on, I know I brought it up before about storm drains.
Well, what is breaking, the head or the grate?
The head, right along the curve.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, under the new stormwater ordinance requirements by the state, we have to map the entire town, every inlet, everybody.
Yeah.
We started to do that and look at these inlets, and along with that, when we're doing that, we're walking down to the same road and this broken grade,
Yeah.
et cetera. And that has to be addressed yearly through our stormwater report. So that's what you're saying out there, it's for the new stormwater.
I get residents asking, you know?
Yeah, that's what it is.
You know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, not a problem, yeah, that's what it's for. The whole town will be mapped, and every inlet and pipe will be on GIS actually.
Okay, good. As for the having it televised and so forth, right now, every month, every meeting I attend, I get minutes. I write up minutes for everybody, or Newton's Lane, and I send it out to them, so they all have it. This will help them, because a lot of them don't like coming out at night. We're all senior citizens, you know, and we don't like coming out and driving at night. I'm one of the few that comes out. Anyway, that's all, I just wanted to let you know, thank you on that.
You thought you were getting off easy.
Be nice. You know, they've been coming through. I sat out there one day, in a 25-minute time frame, we had 6 vehicles come through for DMV, coming through. 2 of the cars hit the curbs when they made the U-turn at Newton's Landing and Emery. Because I was sitting right there. I took my lawn chair and sat out there.
They failed the road test.
For the road test. Residents get PO'd with that coming through.
Public roads, right?
I understand that. I had 2 owners come to me and say to me, why don't we put up a 4x8 sheet of plywood, paint on their DMV, drive red, stay out, no trespassing. That's how bad it's getting with some of the residents.
I know you weren't at last week's, or 2 weeks ago, meeting.
I was in Virginia.
Yep.
I had to be down there.
Better weather. But we did, what did we introduce it, or?
Tonight.
To have no U-turn.
Yeah, we introduced
No
it
U-turn.
tonight. No U-turn.
No U-turn signs there.
Newton's Landing Boulevard, because I went out there on, you weren't here, I was out there myself, multiple occasions, and I saw the amount of actual traffic, quite a few from the NBC that, or DMV, you know, schools that were utilizing the U-turns right there at the intersections.
Yeah.
So we are introducing that,
Okay.
to make that a no U-turn section. Regarding what you're saying about what you're viewing, as I keep saying every meeting, I mean, you can't be at one place at all times. However, you have the ability to get as much information, make a phone call, so we can try to find that, and then you can sign a complaint. The other thing is, I can detail our officers out there again. Remember last time we did this? Quite a few of the problems were stemming from residents, the way they were driving. So we can do that. I should designate our officers to do the same exact thing, go out there and heavily enforce.
I mean, because it's
That's what I saw last week. I was out there looking at trees and sidewalks out in your neighborhood. And two cars came down, did a U-turn at, off the boulevard and made that first at Wilson. But they turned in at the next one down with Charles. There were residents at the point that utilized that. So since this was first reading and this will be up next month, that we'll get past to that community, that this will affect them, that they won't be able to take that shortcut back home.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point where, and I'm looking at it because we being on the board, when curbs don't get destroyed, if you've got to pay for it. Newton's Lane, you've got to pay for it, according to your ordinance.
I'm gonna send you this. This is what they're giving this.
They introduced.
I will be emailing this to you that you can send all your residents.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
And that'll be February 26th.
Yeah, okay, good. Let me see, what else? Trees and the streets. I know Aaron brought up about the trees being in the storm drains. That's already started to happen in Newton's Landing. The streets are being lifted in a couple spots, and guess what? They're right next to the storm drains. And what happens is, we're gonna start going into there, and then we're gonna have the same damn problem in 20 years that they have throughout the other parts of the township with the trees. And the township streets, right there. It's already started. It's on Newton's Landing Boulevard, on Pennington, and on Ships that I've seen, that I walk. And that's where it is. It's starting to raise the streets up. It's raising up the curbs, it's already raised up the sidewalks, and they're heading for the storm drains.
Are these resident trees or?
Township trees.
Township
No,
trees.
I'm just saying, in front of residents' house.
In front of the residents' homes,
Well,
in front of the sidewalks.
why don't you tell them to fill out a request for the shade tree and see what they'll do?
Right now, we have a meeting tomorrow with, Mr. Brown to go over, we're trying to do it just for our common areas first, and then we're going to submit it to all the other owners if we get through the town.
And maybe, because we're gonna experience a lot of roots that are gonna start damaging the streets. Bad.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is just a young street, so, I mean, it's just only gonna get worse.
It's 2003.
Especially if it's near the storm drain, because then they'll
Right.
start pushing all the brick in and whatnot.
That's the reason why I'm bringing it back up again. I'm looking at this thing and saying, wait, this is gonna break the same problem that Howard brought up before, which happened over some of the other streets. I think so. Anyway, and then, the last thing deals with the schools. A couple of months ago, you said you was gonna be looking at, schools because of, looking to close down one of the schools or whatever, because I know the original, one of the schools was built when they were anticipating to have additional students coming in back in 2003, 2004 timeframe from some of the developments. And it never, don't have the students. Because what happens is, if you look at the schools, there's not as many students as they anticipated, and you've got half a school full. Is there any way of shutting down one of the schools and combining them into one school?
That's exactly what they're looking at right now, from what I understand, and that's a question you would want to bring to the school board. They meet Mike, help me, third Wednesday?
Yes.
Or either Mike, third Wednesday?
Okay, all right. Third Wednesday.
That'll be discussed at the February meeting.
And that's at the Pearson School on Burlington Avenue.
Yeah, I know where it's at. You know. But as I said, it was brought up a couple of months ago, and I hadn't heard anything else about it. By the township committee.
You've heard exactly what we've heard. They're talking about it, they're doing a study, and that's what we've heard some more, so far. Mike, you were at the last meeting, they haven't said anything further since
Just
then, right?
the announcement that we'll have a little more in detail at the February meeting.
Okay. Yeah, that's all. As I said, that's pretty good. About it for me tonight.
I think you've got all of us here, so you're good.
Yeah. I haven't been at it for a couple of months.
I know. Take care. It's good to see you, Ray.
We missed you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
I'm on TV too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What's Tuesday?
Hello.
Hello. I know it's late on fast.
That's okay.
Cindy Hutchinson, you all went. So I wanted you to know that the light is connected, and the contractor from PSE&G told the resident that it took so long because while they were under construction, the wires were stolen and nobody realized it was in.
Wow.
So DR Order didn't do it, PSE&G did it, just as an FYI.
Okay, thank you.
As a matter of fact, when I emailed DR Order, they may not do that. You made me a little nervous when you said that they're close to closing out. We had a couple months ago, I think, you had acknowledged that the transition report from the HOA, you agree with a lot of the stuff in there. So I think we need to have a conversation where we're at with that. Because we just, in addition to the basins, we just don't want to be left with a huge mess. We also don't want the township to be left with it. Because we're the newest community in the area, and so we want to make sure that the streets are paved properly so that we're not going to come to you and complain about all that. With that, the concrete work also started, but it doesn't appear, when we communicated last time, that the concrete work they did a month or so ago was not up to par. Doesn't look like they touched any of that, including the damage they caused to existing sidewalk and existing residence driveways. So make sure you're aware of that.
Okay.
And do you remember we also talked about in the common area on Hartley Road, there was a lot of leaking coming out? And I had suspected it was that the well had not been closed up properly. At that time, you didn't have that paperwork, so if you have it, please share. Because they've not given me anything yet, but it's leaking again. We haven't had rain, and it's all wet, and send me pictures. So there's still something going on there. The water is coming up in those common area parking spots, and that area park.
There is, and we're requiring them to put in a underground curve, because I think it is out of groundwork. There's probably a clay area that went down in that area, it wasn't going to use our houses, and as the water seeps through the topsoil, there's a clay area flowing out from that curve. So they're going to have to put a drain behind the curve, so if there needs to be inlet, we don't want to. So, yes, they.
I want to make sure you didn't forget. I remember it was an underground something, but I didn't remember.
Yeah, I don't use crawl,
Make sure we don't have to.
no.
They were supposed to send the evidence that it was tapped, but they haven't, so. And,
I'm sure it's not the well, it's a drainage problem, they have to.
okay.
Cindy, do you think that the HOA is ready to meet with us and Harry?
Yeah, I
and
think we talked about doing that soon.
we were going to do that soon, and maybe we should bring that list, and maybe we should meet with Scott too.
Yeah, I think Scott was there last time.
Yep.
Doug was there, so maybe we should all get together, and I don't know if we should ask D.R. Horton at that time or not. Should we meet first?
I think we should meet first.
Okay.
Internally.
We asked our attorney, D.R. Horton has not acknowledged receipt of the transition report actually yet.
Okay.
And we sent it to them the exact same time that they sent it, we sent it to you.
I know they got these.
I'm sure they did too, but, our attorney just sent them another letter last week asking them to acknowledge it and what they're gonna do and so forth. So
Okay.
if we could be aligned, that would be really great.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it's over 3 years old. And I feel like I've been battling for a long time, not with you all, thank you all for what you do, because you help keep me sane.
It does take
It's been a
time.
long time.
Yeah, I understand.
So I just wanted to make, come up, tell you what the status was, and just make sure that we're not gonna let anything slip through, because, it's important, because it's a new community to us, right? Oh, the other thing was, we had talked about, evaluating a light attack along the walkway. We don't forget that either, because we have more residents complaining about the darkness back there than the light external.
Yeah, well, going to be a policy from that committee, because that was not required by the developer.
Understood.
So we can't make it for the light in there. And that was one of the deals we were trying to make, where you let the solar light in Sterling, and you put in one here. But that didn't come to fruition.
But there was some other things that we came across that weren't done in the houses that we had talked about maybe using as leverage for that.
Yeah, that's between you and the other one.
No, that was the town.
I think Scott had mentioned something, but I'll send out some dates that we can get together so that we all are on the same page and we know what's going on. I think it's time. Richard, we think it's time. Yeah. No, he's fine.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Anyone else for any public comment? All right, we'll close this session of public comment. Discussion items, we talked about the YouTube before, and if there's any further need for that. I don't think we have a reason for executive session. So a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Carolyn, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody.